welcome to another A-Level Computer Science video with me, Mr Goff, for MrGoff.com. This video will focus on Mealy machines. A Mealy machine is a special type of finite state machine that also handles output. It follows all the same rules of a finite state machine. That means the machine is always in one of a finite number of states. It moves between states when triggered by an external event or timer. The only new aspect to deal with is that as well as being labelled with the input that causes the transition, each arrow in our Mealy machine will also show the output associated with that particular action. This is an example of a Mealy machine. Along the transition arrows, you can see two distinct numbers. The first represents the input value, and the second after the slash represents what will be output. This particular Mealy machine accepts an input of a string of ones and zeros and outputs a string of ones and zeros of equal length. Let's consider the number 1010 going through this Mealy machine. We begin in the start state at S0. The first input is a 1, so the first output is a 0, and we move to state 1. The next input is a 0, so the output is a 1, and we move to state 2. The next input is a 1, so the output is a 0, and we move back to state 1. The final output is a 0, so the output is 1, and we move back to state 2, and our overall output is 0101. Just as we saw with finite state machines, Mealy machines can be represented as a table. To do this, the table needs to show, for each input that each state can receive, what will be the output and what will be the resultant next state. In this example, if the current state is state 0 and the input is 0, then the output will be 0 and we'll move to state 2. However, if we're in state 0 and the input is 1, then the output will be 0 and we'll move to state 1. If we're in state 1 and the input is a 0, then the output will be a 1 and we will move to state 2. However, if in state 1 we receive a 1 as input, then the output will be 1, but we will stay in state 1. If we're in state 2 and we receive a 0 as the input, the output will be 0 and we will stay in state 2. However, if we're in state 2 and receive 1 as the input, then the output will be 0 and we'll move to state 1. Just like with finite state machines, you should be able to read and interpret either the diagrammatic form or table form of a Mealy machine. You should also be able to convert from one format to the other. Let's take a look at another example using just the table. This time, let's consider an input of 0111. We start in state 0, and the first input is a 0, so the output is a 0, and the next state is state 2. If we're in state 2, and the next input is a 1, then the output is a 0, and the next state is state 1. Now we're in state 1, and the input is a 1, so the output is also a 1, and we remain in state 1. The final input is also a 1, so the output remains 1, and we again remain in state 1. Our output is now 0011. Have you worked out the purpose of this particular Mealy machine while we were going through the examples? In fact, this Mealy machine performs a right bit shift of one place on its binary input. That brings us to the end of this video on Mealy machines. Join me in the next video when I'll be taking a look at the use of sets in computer science. Use the resources at MrGoff.com to help you revise A-Level Computer Science, and until next time, it's bye for now.